Hi everyone, my name's Vanessa Lucy and I'm a research assistant with ShareCity. Today I'm going to talk to you about food sharing and the novel coronavirus or COVID-19, and I want to talk to you about some of the early insights that ShareCity has had through a few blogs that we produced. So here's an outline of what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to go through some introductions just to explain my background and my role in the team. Then I'm going to talk about how we actually got into looking at food sharing and coronavirus and how this turned into a May 2020 blog. I'm going to look at how we read some various articles and research papers to actually feed into what is happening. And then I'm going to talk about how we extended this work. So we had a scholarship student, Lily Donahue, come on board in May and June this year, and she looked at this in the United States. And then I'm going to look at where to next. So what does this mean for food sharing in a coronavirus future? So I'll just provide some introductions about myself and my role in the team. So as I just touched on before, my name's Vanessa Lucy and I'm a research assistant for the ShareCity team. I joined in February this year. However, I've been with Trinity College since about October 2019. I came over from Australia to experience living in Ireland and to join sustainability projects that's happening here. I really want to learn about the European context and how I can share what I've learned in Australia. So I worked as a sustainability officer at the City of Melbourne for about 3 years before I moved overseas. It was great working there. I learned a lot about the context in Melbourne, which is a great sustainable city. I learned about urban food sharing there. I worked on mostly our urban nature programs as an ecologist there. So I wanted to apply these skills in ShareCity. So I work on the main operations of ShareCity. I help Anna Davies running the project. I manage the European Research Council budgets. I help manage the project's website, any additional social media accounts, and I also am helping to run and coordinate this virtual conference. So it's great to be involved. It's great we can run it virtually, and it's exciting to see the project through to the end. As we all know, coronavirus or COVID-19 started originating from China in late December and early January in 2020. This eventually spread around the world and to Europe, and it reached Ireland about late February, early March. So this led to campus-wide closures at Trinity College Dublin. This obviously had an impact on many people across the world, resulting in lockdowns or stay-at-home orders, saving lives to stay home. So we basically wanted to know at ShareCity how that had an impact on food sharing. Obviously, this is going to have a major impact on many different countries in many different ways and how we share food, how we interact with people. So we wanted to kind of investigate that and look at different articles online and what this might mean. So we thought a good way to maybe start looking at that would be to research some articles online and to create this into a monthly blog. So ShareCity, one of our major outputs is a blog every month. So it's a great way we can share our research and what we're working on. So we thought by end of March, early mid-April, and throughout April, we wanted to investigate this, and then we ended up publishing a blog on the 1st of May. So I'll go into in the next few slides how we started collating this data, and this is just a quick snapshot into what we've created, and then I'll go into how we actually collected this data. Okay, here's just an overview of how we went about searching for these articles online. So we used keywords that are found on the ShareCity 100 database on our website. We looked at how food is shared, what is shared, and who it's shared by. So we use these keywords when searching because it's not just about, for instance, what is shared. It's not just about plants being shared, food being shared. It's also about the land being shared, the kitchen spaces, and also knowledge and skills. So food sharing has many different forms. And we used online news searches, mostly looking for global newspapers such as The Guardian, New York Times, The Independent London, and also social media sources such as Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And then we started compiling these together in a big Excel spreadsheet. So we basically wanted to look at what food sharing was taking place, how it's been affected under coronavirus, and what groups were being affected. As you can imagine, there were many, many sources online that looked at food sharing and coronavirus. So I must say we put this search in late March and April. So later in 2020, this has changed. This is when lockdowns across many countries were beginning. And this is the first, the widespread of coronavirus. So we found they were clustered into many different themes, that it was very common that growing was affected at local scales. So farmers markets being shut down was not a story that was uncommon. It happened in several different continents. We found that food supplies or food chains were affected. So how food chains worked, and we all saw the supermarket shelves being emptied. We also saw how methods of physical food sharing was affected. It was uncommon to be able to share common utensils. The likelihood of communal dining just went down. It was impossible. Restaurants were being closed all over the shop. So we have several different articles here just displaying this. And of course, the other side to this coin is that there are a number of positive stories for food sharing under a current coronavirus global pandemic. We clustered these into many different categories. The three main ones we found were that food sharing sales increased. So people didn't want to go to the supermarket, they wanted to stay at home. They had to self-isolate. We found that vegetable boxes, at home alcohol deliveries, all of that increased under coronavirus. So also we found that virtual technology boomed. We found that people were able to host dinner parties online. They were able to attend online cooking classes. Activities, social media, TikTok, food sharing, YouTube, it really took off during this time. We also found that people who had a bit more time at home, if they were lucky enough to have a balcony or a garden or any large space to do any outdoor gardening, that gardening really took off. People wanted to cook and grow their own, so they wanted to grow their own food so they could cook it. Their community gardens might have been shut, so they've taken to at-home gardening. So there was a big demand for this as people wanted to relax their minds, they wanted to be active. It was a good way to take their mind off everything happening. So we did see a big surge happening that through the articles we found online. Okay, so we've seen there's some positive and some negative stories that have come out of our research online. So what does this actually mean for the future of food sharing? Research has shown that the sharing of knowledge and skills has always been the mainstay of food sharing practices, and the COVID-19 crisis has elevated the significance of this element of sharing, particularly through the use of accessible ICT and social technological systems of social media. We found that physical sharing of food was impossible due to the pandemic. So this brought up new ways of how we do things. We must take this shock that the COVID-19 has given us and actually take this as an opportunity to highlight the challenges and opportunities facing food sharing initiatives. We want to reinvigorate our efforts to demonstrate how we can do food sharing. Towards the end of May this year, we concluded our search for various articles looking at the impacts of coronavirus on food sharing. But we decided we wanted to investigate this further, so we decided to take on board an internship student for the Law Scholarship. Her name was Lily Donahue, and she joined us in May this year. So there's her photo just there. We decided to widen the search and extend this, but we wanted to add several more articles by using specific keywords. So we wanted to specifically search for community gardens, for community kitchens, and for surplus food redistribution. We decided, though, this was a lot of information, so we thought it might be good to restrict this to the United States of America, where Lily was based in San Francisco at the time. It's also fed into the fact that by the time in June and May that we were looking into this country had the highest case numbers, and it continues to rise to this day. So what did Lily find through her research? She found close to 70 articles investigating COVID-19 impacts on food sharing in America. These online articles covered both the positive and the negative outcomes. There were many articles that suggested community gardening was on the rise in the US, and as a result of the global pandemic. Gardens were found to be adapting to COVID-19 and were working with social distancing measures. Interest in community gardens appeared to be growing for many reasons, some of which included more people wanting to get outside and to practice gardening in their bountiful spare time, or more people being food insecure. And perhaps most significantly, more people were feeling the effects of a failing food system. In terms of community kitchens, those that were running long before coronavirus were experiencing a surge in demand, and new ones were popping up all over the place. Restaurants were being transformed into community kitchens, funded by non-profits, and to accomplish keeping people in work, to reduce food waste, and to feed communities in need. Lastly, Lily found that surplus food redistribution came to a standstill in many US states. Stories that farmers were destroying their crops and livestock because they couldn't sell them as per usual were not uncommon. But on the flip side of this, And at the same time, billions of dollars in funding from the US government was being channeled towards food rescue. Lily's research led to the creation of a June 2020 blog, where we looked at food sharing in the United States, what's changed during coronavirus. Over the last few months and throughout this entire year, since March, we have witnessed significant changes affecting food sharing, from the local level to the national level in the United States. Issues like food security or food waste aren't new, but they've certainly become more pressing and highlighted throughout this pandemic. Lily highlighted some positive stories that are hopefully going to come out of this, and we've touched on that in the blog. So it's a great read if you can go on the website and look at our link, and I'd like to hear your thoughts as well. All right, so you're probably thinking, where does this leave us? Where are we going to go next? We know that food sharing as we know it will change, and we're going to need to adapt. We've already seen the changes that are happening across the world through our blogs in May and June, through our various research on different articles and research papers. We've seen that the rise of food sharing knowledge has come about. There's a shift away from sharing of physical items to this surge in intangible knowledge. So the global pandemic of coronavirus or COVID-19 is terrible. It's been terrible for millions upon billions of people across the world. But I think it's a great opportunity to fix the flaws in our food system and what's currently happening. We can see that this topic's only at the very beginning. You know, we're in 2020. How long is this going to go on for? This is an opportunity for us to take to see how food sharing is going to change in the future. So we have a new postdoctoral researcher, Dr. Louise Fitzgerald, who's joined us in June this year. She's luckily, on board to help us look into this. So she's going to investigate food futures and the governance of urban food sharing. Where do we go in the future? So it'll be really exciting to find out. I would encourage you to keep up to date with our research outputs and our monthly blogs, or bi-monthly sometimes if you're lucky, just on the website linked there. We have so many other resources on our website that you can look through, publications, presentations. All of this virtual conference information will be linked on our website. So we really hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. It's been really fun being involved in this. I think it's so exciting to see the rise of virtual conferencing happen. I think it's all good that we reduce our global travel for carbon emissions. And it's really exciting that we can kind of connect, but all be in different countries throughout the world. So please get in touch with ShareCity at tcity.ie if you do have any more questions throughout the conference or afterwards. And there's some of my details below. So I've got my email and my LinkedIn and Twitter. It was really great talking to you guys today. I really am excited to see what's happening next for food sharing. I really hope it's a positive outcome, but let's take advantage of any negative outcomes that do happen from coronavirus on food sharing, and let's really take that and harness it. All right, thank you everyone.